Minho sat in his chair and watched the council chamber fill with representatives from 47 different species. The massive room stretched high above him, with seats arranged in circles that went up and up until they nearly touched the domed ceiling. Lights floated in the air, translating words from one language to another. He had been coming to this room for 12 years now, and every time it felt a little bit colder. The Velcrim Council speaker banged his gavel against the stone podium. The sound echoed through the chamber. Everyone went quiet. "We begin today's session," the speaker announced. His voice came through the translator with a tone that always sounded bored. First matter, the resource allocation proposal from the Dendary system. Minho glanced at Hana, who sat beside him with her datapad. She was making notes like always, her face calm and professional. On his other side, Jinho shifted in his seat. The trade commissioner looked tired. They all looked tired these days. The Dendary representative stood up and began talking about minerals and colony support. Minho only half listened. He had learned long ago that these sessions followed a pattern. The big species talked. The rich systems got what they wanted. Everyone else waited. The human delegation submitted a proposal 8 sessions ago, Hana whispered to him, about the medical technology sharing program. Minho nodded. He remembered. The proposal had asked for fair compensation when human medical discoveries were used by other species. It had been a simple request: pay for what you use, or at least say thank you. The proposal had been on the agenda for consideration. That was 8 sessions ago, 4 months. The morning session dragged on. 3 different proposals were discussed, voted on, and approved. The human proposal was not mentioned. When they broke for the midday meal, Minho walked to the human delegation office. It was a small room compared to the spaces given to species like the Velcrim or the Tharsos. The room had 6 desks, a few chairs, and a window that looked out at the council plaza. Jinho threw his folder on his desk. 200 sessions, he said. I counted. 200 times we have come here, and 200 times they ignore us. Not ignore, Hana said, quietly. She was organizing her notes, making them neat. They acknowledge us. They just don't value our input. Minho sat down at his desk and opened his computer. There were 47 messages waiting for him. Most were automatic updates. 3 were from human colony worlds asking about the medical technology proposal. 1 was from Earth government asking for a status report. The afternoon session started at the 2nd hour. Minho returned to his seat in the chamber. The speaker was already talking when he arrived. Next matter, the mandatory resource contribution adjustment. Minho felt something cold settle in his chest. He looked at Hana. She was already reading the proposal on her datapad, her face getting tighter with each line. They are taking the Jensen colony medical facilities, she whispered, claiming them as galactic common property. The Jensen colony facilities had been built by human engineers. Human doctors worked there. Human scientists had developed 3 major disease cures in those buildings. The facilities existed because humanity had invested money, time, and people into creating them. Minho pressed the button to request speaking time. A small light should have appeared above his seat. It did not. He pressed it again. Nothing. The speaker continued reading the proposal. The facilities will be transferred to council authority for the benefit of all species. This is in accordance with the Greater Good Protocol. Jinho leaned forward. That protocol is supposed to be for emergencies. Everything is an emergency when they want something, Hana said. Minho pressed his speaking button a 3rd time. The light above his seat flickered once and went dark. Across the chamber, he saw the technical controller, a Velcrim, look directly at him and then look away. The vote was called. 41 species voted yes, 3 voted no, 3 abstained. The human delegation was never asked. When Minho stood up to object, his microphone stayed silent. He could see the speaker looking at him with those large, dark eyes. The speaker knew the microphone was off. Everyone knew. The speaker banged his gavel. The matter is settled. Next item. Minho sat down slowly. He felt Hana touch his arm gently. Jinho was staring at the floor, his hands clenched into fists. The session ended 2 hours later. Minho gathered his things without speaking. He walked back to the delegation office. Hana and Jinho followed him. Inside the office, Minho closed the door. He stood by the window for a long moment, looking out at the plaza where different species walked and talked. Some were laughing, others were making deals. The plaza was beautiful, with fountains and gardens. Humans had designed those gardens. A human engineering team had built the water recycling system that made the fountains possible. "Sir," Hana said softly. Minho turned around. He went to his desk and opened a new document on his computer. The screen glowed white, empty, waiting. "How many sessions?" he asked. Hana did not need to check her notes. 203, including today. "And how many times has a human proposal been accepted?" 14, all minor. All were things they wanted from us anyway. Minho began typing. His fingers moved steadily across the keyboard. Jinho and Hana watched him work. "What are you writing?" Jinho finally asked. "A letter," Minho said. He wrote for 20 minutes. When he finished, the document was short. Just one page. He read it over 3 times, changing a word here and there. Then he turned his screen so Hana and Jinho could see it. Hana read it twice. Her eyes got wide. "Minho, this is necessary," he finished for her. "Read it carefully. Tell me if I missed anything." Jinho read it and let out a long breath. "The council will think we are bluffing." "Let them think what they want," Minho said. He looked at both of them. "I need to know if you agree, both of you. This is not a small decision." Hana looked at her datapad, where years of records sat stored. All those proposals, all those sessions, all those times humanity had contributed and been dismissed. She nodded. Jinho thought for a longer time. Then he nodded too. Minho saved the document. He attached it to an official message form. In the subject line, he wrote, "Formal notification. Immediate attention required." He sent it to the council speaker's office. The message confirmed delivery 3 seconds later. Outside, the sun was setting over the council plaza. The gardens glowed in the golden light. Tomorrow, Minho thought, everything would begin to change. Not with anger, not with war. Just with a simple letter and the truth it contained. Humanity was done waiting to be heard. The message arrived at the council speaker's office at dawn. A clerk opened it, read the subject line, and forwarded it to the speaker's personal assistant. The assistant, a young Velcrim named Kess, read it while drinking his morning beverage. He stopped mid-sip. The document was only 247 words long. Kess read it 3 times to make sure he understood correctly. Then he ran to the speaker's office. Speaker Vex was reviewing the day's agenda when Kess burst through the door. "Sir, the humans have submitted a withdrawal notice." Vex looked up from his work. "A withdrawal from what? A committee?" "From the council, completely. They are leaving." Vex took the document and read it. His face, already hard to read for most species, showed nothing. He set the paper down carefully. "This is a negotiation tactic," he said. "Humans do this. They make dramatic gestures to get attention." "Should I respond, sir?" Vex thought for a moment. "Send them a standard acknowledgement and prepare a counter-offer. Give them an additional seat on the agricultural subcommittee. That should satisfy them." Kess hesitated. The document says they are not negotiating. It lists a 90-day transition timeline. "Everyone negotiates," Vex said. He waved his hand dismissively. "Send the counteroffer." In the human delegation office, Minho received the council's response 2 hours later. He read it aloud to Hana and Jinho. The council values humanity's participation and offers an enhanced role in galactic governance through an additional seat on the agricultural subcommittee, pending review and approval. Jinho laughed, but it was not a happy sound. An additional seat, on a subcommittee, that needs approval. Minho deleted the message without responding. "Hana, send the transition protocol to all human facilities. We begin immediate inventory of all council-integrated systems." Hana nodded and began typing rapidly. Within an hour, messages went out to every human station, every human colony, every human ship in council space. The messages were simple. Catalog everything. Every piece of technology humans had created. Every system humans maintained. Every program humans ran. Yuna received her message while standing in the jump gate control room. She was the lead engineer for the entire gate network in the sector. The massive gates allowed ships to cross light years in seconds. Without them, the Council's territory would take decades to cross. She read the message carefully. Then she called her team together. "We are cataloging all human-developed systems," she told them. "Everything we designed, everything we modified, everything we maintain." A young engineer named Bora raised her hand. "That is almost everything. The gate timing algorithms, the safety protocols, the efficiency modifications. We built most of the system." "I know," Yuna said. "Get started." At the medical research station above Velcrum Prime, Suman was conducting cross-species disease analysis when her message arrived. She was one of 50 human doctors and scientists working on Council medical projects. Her research on viral mutations had saved millions of lives across a dozen species. She read the withdrawal notice and sat down slowly. One of her Velcrum colleagues, a doctor named Threx, noticed her expression. "Is something wrong?" he asked. "I have been recalled to human space," Suman said quietly. "In 90 days. "Recalled? But your research will continue under new supervision," Suman said, reading from the official council response that had been copied to her. "The council appreciates my contributions but recognizes that all knowledge should be freely available." Threx looked confused. "But you have not finished the mutation tracking system. No one else knows how it works." Suman began backing up her personal files. "Then someone should learn quickly." On the merchant vessel Morning Star, Captain Dongwu received his instructions during a routine cargo run. He was carrying medical supplies to a Tharsos colony. The supplies were purchased at discounted rates because humans had negotiated fair trade agreements with multiple species. He read the message and then called his crew together. "We complete this delivery," he said, "but we accept no new contracts in council space. When we return to port, we begin moving toward human territory." His first officer, a woman named Isul, frowned. "Captain, we have contracts scheduled for the next 6 months. Cancel them. Pay the penalty fees. We are going home." Across council space, the same scene repeated. Human engineers stopped accepting new projects. Human doctors began training replacements. Human merchants declined contract renewals. Everything was professional. Everything was polite. But everywhere, humans were pulling back. The council did not notice at first. 90 days seemed like a long time. And besides, most council members agreed with Speaker Vex. The humans were bluffing. On day 15, Minho received another message from the council. This one was longer and had more official seals on it. "The council is willing to discuss humanity's concerns in a special session. Please submit your demands so we can find a mutually beneficial solution." Minho showed the message to Hana. "They still think this is a negotiation," she said. "Let them think that," Minho replied. He did not respond to the message. On day 30, the first problems began to appear. At a jump gate near the Dendori system, the efficiency rating dropped by 4%. The gate still worked, but ships had to wait longer between jumps. The council technical team investigated and found nothing wrong with the hardware. "It is a software issue," the lead technician reported. "The timing algorithms are running slower." "Contact the human engineers who designed it," his supervisor said. The technician tried. The human engineers responded politely that they were busy with transition duties. They could not offer support at this time. On day 45, Suman packed the last of her research files. She had spent 6 weeks training Threx and 2 other Velcrum doctors on her disease tracking system. They understood maybe 60% of it. The rest was too complex to explain in the time she had. "What about the mutation prediction model?" Threx asked desperately. "We need that for the outbreak on Tharsos 3. "The documentation is in the system," Suman said. "Everything I could write down, I wrote down. But the documentation does not explain why you made certain choices. There are gaps." Suman felt bad for Threx. He was a good doctor, but she could not stay. "You will have to figure it out." I am sorry. On day 60, Speaker Vex finally began to worry. Reports were coming in from across Council space. Systems were running slower. Projects were delayed. Small problems were becoming bigger problems. He called an emergency meeting with his senior staff. "Where are we on the human situation?" he demanded. Kess had a long list of updates. 70% of human civilian personnel have already left Council space. The remaining 30% will depart in the next month. Military escorts have been requested for the final transports. Have they responded to our offers? No, sir. Ambassador Minho has not responded to any communication in 40 days. Vex felt something unfamiliar in his chest. It might have been fear. Send him a personal message from me. Tell him we need to talk. The message was sent. Minho read it and archived it with all the others. On day 89, the last human civilian boarded a transport ship at Council Station 7. Captain Hyun commanded the military escort. His 3 ships waited patiently while families and workers loaded their belongings. A council security officer approached him. Ambassador Vex requests you delay departure. He is arriving to speak with human leadership. We have honored the 90-day notice, Hyun said politely. We depart on schedule. But the ambassador is welcome to send a message through proper channels. Hyun nodded respectfully and returned to his ship. When Vex arrived, the human ships were already gone. He stood in the empty docking bay and stared at the space where they had been. Get me Minho, he said to his assistant. He is no longer in council space, sir. All human diplomatic staff departed 2 days ago. Vex turned and walked back to his shuttle. Behind him, the station's environmental systems began running their maintenance cycle. A human engineer had programmed that cycle 5 years ago. No one else knew how to modify it. The cycle ran perfectly. For now, the medical ship Hyesung drifted in orbit above the Tharsos colony world. Inside, Captain Taeyang walked through the empty corridors. His crew had already packed their equipment. The medical supplies were loaded. In 6 hours, they would leave council space forever. He stopped at the main medical bay and looked through the window. 20 beds stood empty now. 2 months ago, those beds had been full of patients from 4 different species. Human doctors had treated them. Human nurses had cared for them. Now the bay was silent. A Tharsos medical administrator named Grell met him in the corridor. His 6 limbs moved nervously. Captain Taeyang, please reconsider. We need your medical staff. The outbreak in the southern continent. You have your own doctors, Taeyang said gently. Not enough. And they do not have the training your people have. The vaccine production process alone is documented. We left all the instructions. Grell's skin changed color, a sign of distress in his species. The instructions are incomplete. There are steps that make no sense. We tried following them exactly, but the vaccine does not work correctly. Taeyang had expected this. He had written those instructions himself. They were complete. But they were written by someone who understood the underlying science. Following them without that understanding was like reading music without knowing what notes were. I am sorry, Taeyang said. We have to go. The Hyesung departed on schedule. Behind them, the Tharsos medical facilities tried to continue their work. Within a week, they would realize that 3 of their most critical systems had been personally maintained by a human technician named Minji. The systems still ran, but no one knew how to fix them when they broke. At the Jumpgate Network Control Center, Yuna sat in her office for the last time. She had worked here for 8 years. She knew every line of code in the gate system. She knew which parts were fragile and needed watching. She knew the workarounds for problems that the official documentation did not mention. Her replacement, a Velcrum engineer named Dexis, stood beside her desk. He had been training with her for 60 days. He was smart and willing to learn. But 60 days was not enough time to learn 8 years of knowledge. The timing algorithm, Dexis said, looking at his notes. It uses a variable offset that changes based on gravitational fluctuations, but I do not understand how you calculate the offset. Yuna pulled up the code on her screen. Lines of text scrolled past, complex and dense. See this function here? It measures the local gravity well and adjusts the gate synchronization. Yes, I see it. But why does it multiply by this specific number? Yuna looked at the number. She had written that code 6 years ago, after a gate nearly collapsed because of an unexpected gravity spike. The number was the solution to a complex physics problem. She had worked it out over 3 weeks of testing. It is the correction factor for quantum field stability, she said. Dexys wrote that down. How did you determine that factor? Trial and error, testing. The equations are in the research files. I read those files. They do not explain this specific number. Yuna realized the problem. The files explained the theory, but the actual implementation had come from her experience, her intuition, her understanding of how the gates really worked versus how they theoretically worked. That could not be put into a manual. Do your best, she said finally. Watch the stability readings. If they start to fluctuate outside normal range, reduce the gate cycle speed. By how much? Enough to stabilize it. She could see the confusion on his face. That answer was not helpful. But it was the only answer she had. Some things you learned by doing, not by reading. Yuna left the control center at the end of her shift. She did not look back. 3 weeks later, the jump gate network experienced its first major failure. A gate in the Dendary system lost synchronization with its partner gate. Ships waiting to jump had to be diverted. The delay cascaded through the network. Journey times across Council space increased by 17% in a single day. Dexys worked for 36 hours straight, trying to fix it. He adjusted the timing algorithm like Yuna had suggested. The readings stabilized, but the gates were running slower now, much slower. On the agricultural world of Kelmar 3, Jisoo walked through the crop fields one final time. She had been the chief agricultural consultant here for 5 years. The fields stretched to the horizon, growing food for 3 billion people. She stopped at a field of Kelmar grain. The plants were healthy now, but in 2 months they would face the seasonal pest outbreak. Every year the pests came. Every year, Jisoo had managed them using a careful combination of biological controls and timing. The local administrator, a Kelmar named Breck, walked beside her. You have left the pest management schedule, he said hopefully. Yes, it is in the system. But the schedule says to release the predator insects on day 43 of the growing season. Why day 43? Jisoo looked at the grain. Because that is when the pest population reaches critical mass, but before they begin reproducing exponentially. The predators need that specific population density to establish themselves. How do you know when that happens? You watch the plants. Look for the early stress signs. The leaves will show small yellow spots. The stems will bend slightly more than normal. Breck touched a plant gently. These yellow spots? There are hundreds of possible causes for yellow spots. I know. You learn to tell the difference. Can you teach me? Jisoo looked at him sadly. Not in 2 days. She left Kelmar 3 on schedule. 2 months later, the pest outbreak came. The local farmers followed the schedule exactly. They released the predator insects on day 43, but they released them in the wrong fields, at the wrong time of day, in the wrong quantities. The predators died. The pests multiplied. 40% of the harvest was lost. At the Council Communication Center, the Universal Translator System began producing errors. Small ones at first. A word mistranslated here. A phrase inverted there. Nothing that stopped communication, but enough to cause confusion. The technical team investigated. They found that the translator database had not been updated in 3 months. Usually, updates happened weekly. A human linguistics team had been responsible for those updates. The head technician tried to create an update manually, but the process was complicated. The translator did not just convert words. It understood context, culture, idiom. It knew that the same word could mean different things to different species. All of that knowledge came from constant refinement. Without the updates, the translator slowly degraded. Conversations became awkward. Misunderstandings increased. Council sessions took longer because representatives had to clarify their statements multiple times. On day 85 of the transition period, Minho stood on the bridge of the transport ship Seoul. They were crossing into human-controlled space. Behind them, Council territory faded into the distance. Hana stood beside him. I received a message from Speaker Vex. He wants to negotiate. What did you tell him? Nothing. The 90 days are over. We are under no obligation to respond. Minho nodded. Through the viewport, he could see other human ships, dozens of them, families returning home, workers seeking new opportunities, scientists eager to work without council interference. How many made it out? He asked. Hana checked her data pad. 98% of all human civilians, 100% of critical personnel. We lost some property and equipment that could not be transported, but no people. Good. Behind them, the last human military escort crossed the border. Commander Hyun sent a final message to Council Traffic Control. This is Human Fleet acknowledging departure from Council space. We thank you for your hospitality. Good luck. The message was professional and polite. It gave no hint of the chaos that was beginning to unfold in Council territory. In the Council chamber, Speaker Vex called an emergency session. Representatives from 46 species gathered. The human seats sat empty. We have a crisis, Vex announced. Multiple systems are failing. We need solutions immediately. A Dendari representative stood. The Jumpgate network is operating at 64% efficiency. Our trade routes are disrupted. A Tharsos representative stood. We have disease outbreaks on 3 worlds. Our medical response capacity has been cut in half. A Kelmar representative stood. Crop failures are projected across our agricultural worlds. One by one, the reports came. Infrastructure problems, technical failures, knowledge gaps. Every problem traced back to the same source. Humans had been maintaining these systems. Now the humans were gone. Why did we not realize? Someone asked. Vex had no answer. The humans had been there, working quietly, fixing problems before they became crises. They had been so competent that they had become invisible. Now their absence was very, very visible. The session lasted 14 hours. No solutions were found. When it ended, Vex returned to his office and sat in the dark. Outside his window, the Council Plaza fountains still flowed. But the water recycling system was running at reduced capacity. In 3 months, the fountains would have to be shut down. A human engineer had built that system. No one else knew how to fix it. 4 months after the last human left Council space, the medical crisis reached critical levels. Dr. Threx stood in the research lab that Suman had once managed. Around him, equipment hummed and beeped. On his screen, data scrolled past in patterns he only half understood. The disease outbreak on Tharsos 3 was getting worse. Every day, more people got sick. The vaccine that Suman had developed worked perfectly when she made it. The vaccine that Threx and his team made worked only 60% of the time. Sometimes it made people sicker. He stared at Suman's notes for the 1,000th time. The instructions were clear. Mix compound A with compound B at exactly 47 degrees. Wait for the solution to turn blue. Add compound C slowly while stirring. Threx had followed every step exactly. But his vaccine did not work like Suman's vaccine. Something was wrong, and he could not figure out what. A junior researcher named Kess entered the lab. Doctor, we have another failure. The batch we made yesterday is showing contamination. Impossible. We followed the sterilization protocol. Kess showed him the test results. Contamination was clearly visible. Threx felt frustration rising in his chest. How had Suman made this look so easy? He looked back at the notes. Then he saw something he had missed before, a small comment written in the margin. Temperature matters more than timer. Watch the color shift, not the clock. Temperature matters more than timer. Threx had been using the timer exactly as written, 45 seconds at each stage, but Suman's note suggested she had not used the timer. She had watched the color of the solution and adjusted based on what she saw. Threx tried it. He mixed the compounds and watched. The solution started to change color at 38 seconds, not 45. He waited until the color fully shifted. Then he added the next compound. The vaccine worked better. Not perfect, but better. He realized then what the problem was. Suman had not just followed instructions. She had understood the science so deeply that she could feel when things were right. Her notes were what she did, but they could not explain why she did it that way. That knowledge had been in her mind, built from years of experience. That knowledge was gone now. At the jump gate control center, Dexys was living in his office. He had not gone home in 6 days. The gate network was failing, and he could not stop it. Another synchronization error appeared on his screen. Gate 17 had lost connection with Gate 18. Ships were stranded between jumps. Emergency rescues were being organized. Dexys pulled up the code that Yuna had written. He had read it 100 times. He understood most of it. But understanding was not the same as knowing how to fix it. He tried adjusting the timing algorithm again. The gates stabilized for 4 hours. Then another failure happened somewhere else. His supervisor, a senior Velcrim named Trask, entered the control room. Status? Bad. I have fixed 6 failures today. 8 new ones appeared. Can you stop them? I do not know. The system is too complex. Every time I fix one problem, it creates a problem somewhere else. Trask looked at the screens showing gate status across council space. Red warnings blinked everywhere. We need to contact the human engineers. They will not respond. We have tried. Trask slammed his hand on the desk. Then find someone who can make them respond. The entire council economy depends on these gates. Dexys wanted to explain that it was not about making humans respond. It was about the fact that the humans had built something so sophisticated that no one else could maintain it. But he was too tired to argue. He went back to the code. Somewhere in these millions of lines, there had to be answers. On Kelmar 3, the agricultural disaster was complete. Farmer Breck stood in his field and looked at the dead grain. The pests had destroyed everything. Row after row of brown, withered plants stretched to the horizon. He had followed Jisu's schedule exactly. He had released the predator insects on day 43. But it had not worked. The predators had died within a week. The pests had multiplied unchecked. Breck's neighbor, a farmer named Gress, walked over. His fields were just as dead. The government is asking what went wrong. I do not know. We did everything the human consultant wrote down. Clearly not everything. She knew something we do not. Breck thought about that. Jisu had walked these fields every day. She had touched the plants, smelled the soil, watched the sky. She had told him that farming was not about following schedules. It was about understanding the land. But how do you put that understanding into a manual? How do you teach someone to feel when a plant is stressed? How do you explain the difference between healthy yellow and sick yellow on a leaf? You could not. And now, 3 billion people were going to go hungry because that knowledge had walked away. At the Council Communication Center, the translator crisis was causing serious problems. During a session about trade agreements, a Dendari representative thought a Tharsos representative had insulted his family. The Tharsos had actually been offering condolences for a recent storm. The mistranslation nearly caused a diplomatic incident. Only careful review of the recordings prevented it. But that review took 3 days. The council was slowing down, one mistranslation at a time. The technical team had been working non-stop to fix the translator. They brought in linguists from every species. They tried to update the database manually, but the system was breaking down faster than they could repair it. The problem was that humans had not just translated words. They had understood the subtle cultural meanings behind those words. They had known when a phrase was formal or casual, friendly or threatening. They had adjusted the translations to carry the emotional weight of the original speech. Without that understanding, the translator was just a dictionary. It gave you words, but it lost the meaning. By month 7, the council economy was in free fall. Trade routes that had once connected 46 worlds were disrupted. The jump gate delays meant ships took weeks to make journeys that used to take days. Cargo spoiled, contracts failed, businesses collapsed. The Dendari economy had been built on just-in-time delivery. Raw materials arrived exactly when needed. Products shipped exactly when ordered. That system needed reliable, fast transportation. Now transportation was neither reliable nor fast. Factories shut down. Workers lost jobs. Protests began in the streets. Speaker Vex received daily reports of the deterioration. Each report was worse than the last. He had stopped sleeping well. His staff avoided him when possible. In month 9, the military crisis emerged. The Council Defense Fleet discovered that their weapon systems had been designed by human military engineers. The plasma cannons, the shield generators, the targeting computers, all had human components. Those components were locked. Activation codes were needed. No one had the codes. Admiral Kress stood in the war room looking at screens full of weapons that would not fire. How did we not know this? His tactical officer, a young Velcrim named Jace, looked through the documentation. The humans provided the systems as part of their defense contribution. The codes were supposed to be transferred during the transition period. Were they transferred? No, sir. The transfer request was sent to Ambassador Minho. He did not respond. Kress felt cold. The entire fleet was armed with weapons they could not use. If another species realized this, the Council would be defenseless. Can we bypass the locks? The engineers are trying, but the security is very sophisticated. It could take years. By month 12, the Council was in chaos. The economic collapse had spread everywhere. Food shortages plagued agricultural worlds. Medical crises overwhelmed hospitals. The transportation network was barely functional. Communication was difficult. Speaker Vex called a session of the full council. All 46 species attended. The chamber that had once been orderly was now filled with angry voices. "This is your fault," a Tharsos representative shouted at Vex. "You drove the humans away." "We voted together," Vex said, but his voice was weak. "We all agreed to the resource policies. Because you told us it was fine. You said humans were just like everyone else." A Dendori representative stood. "My economy has contracted by 40%. 40% in 1 year." A Kelmar representative stood. "My people are starving. We cannot grow enough food." One by one, they stood and reported disasters. And slowly, they began to realize the truth. Humans had not been just like everyone else. Humans had been essential. They had held everything together. The Council had assumed that humans needed them. But the reality was the opposite. The Council had needed humans desperately, and they had not realized it until the humans left. After the session, Vex returned to his office. His assistant, Kess, was waiting. "Sir, I have compiled a full assessment of human contributions to Council operations." Vex took the report. It was 300 pages long. He read through it slowly. Each page detailed another system, another process, another technology that humans had created or maintained. Medical research, agricultural science, engineering, linguistics, diplomacy, trade negotiation, conflict resolution, education, art, music, even the council plaza gardens. Humans had touched everything, improved everything, fixed everything, and they had done it so competently, so quietly, that no one had noticed. Vex set down the report and looked out his window. The plaza fountains were dry now. The water recycling system had finally failed completely. Engineers had tried to repair it for months. They had failed. A human had built that system. A human whose name Vex had never learned. "Kess," he said quietly, "I need you to do something." "Yes, sir?" "Find out how to contact the human government. Find out if they will talk to us." "Sir, we have been trying. They do not respond." "Try harder." Vex turned to face him. "Because if we do not fix this, the council will collapse completely, and it will be my fault." Kess nodded and left. Vex sat alone in his office as the lights of the council chamber dimmed for the night. Outside, in the darkness, the broken fountain stood silent, a monument to everything they had taken for granted. 18 months after humanity left the council, a small diplomatic ship crossed into human-controlled space. Speaker Vex sat in the passenger cabin, looking out at the stars. Beside him sat three other council members, each representing a major species. They all looked tired. The ship slowed as it approached the border station. A human voice came through the communication system. Council vessel, this is Border Station Gangwa. State your purpose. Vex took a breath. This is Speaker Vex of the Galactic Council. We request permission to meet with human leadership. There was a long pause. Then the voice returned. Please stand by. They waited for 3 hours. During that time, no one spoke. They all understood what this journey meant. The council was coming to ask for help. That was something none of them had ever imagined. Finally, the communication system activated again. Council vessel, you are cleared to proceed to New Sol Station. Coordinates are being transmitted. The ship moved forward. As they traveled deeper into human space, Vex looked out the window. He saw human ships everywhere, cargo vessels, passenger transports, military cruisers. They all moved with purpose and efficiency. They also saw something else. Ships from species he did not recognize. Small species. Independent colonies. Groups that had never been part of the council. They have been busy, one of the other council members said quietly. They arrived at New Sol Station 2 days later. It was a massive structure, bigger than any council station. Ships docked and departed in constant flow. The station hummed with activity. A human official met them at the airlock. She was young, maybe 30, with dark hair tied back professionally. She bowed slightly. I am Nari, diplomatic liaison. Please follow me. She led them through the station corridors. Vex looked around. Everything was clean, efficient, and crowded with people. Humans worked alongside other species he did not know. Everyone seemed busy and focused. They passed a large window overlooking a construction area. Outside, workers were building something enormous. A jump gate, Vex realized. But the design was different from council gates, sleeker, more advanced. You have built new gates, he said to Nari. Yes. Our engineers have been developing improved designs. These gates are faster and more stable than the old models. Vex felt something twist in his chest. Faster and more stable. While the council gates were failing, humans had built better ones. Nari brought them to a conference room. It was simple and professional. A long table, comfortable chairs. Nothing fancy. Vex had expected something grander. A throne room, perhaps, or a palatial office. Somewhere that humans could show their superiority. But this was just a meeting room. Prime Minister Hana will be with you shortly, Nari said. She left them alone. They waited. Vex looked at the others. A Dendari named Krell. A Tharsos named Vesix. A Kelmar named Dross. Each represented a species in crisis. The door opened. Hana entered, followed by 2 assistants. Vex recognized her. She had been deputy ambassador when humans were still in the council. Now she was prime minister. She looked older, more confident. She sat down across from them and folded her hands on the table. Speaker Vex, she said. Her voice was calm. It has been a long time. Prime Minister Hana, thank you for seeing us. Of course, what can we do for you? The question was simple, polite, but it hung in the air like a weight. What can we do for you? Not what do you demand? Not what are your terms? Just a simple question. Vex had prepared a speech. He had practiced it for days. But sitting here, looking at Hana's calm face, the words seemed hollow. The council is in crisis, he said finally. Our systems are failing. Our economy is collapsing. We need help. Hana nodded slowly. I see. What kind of help? Technical assistance, access to human knowledge, medical support, agricultural expertise, engineering consultants. He paused. Everything. Everything, Hana repeated. She looked at her assistants. One of them, a man named Junho, placed a folder on the table. Hana opened it. We have been monitoring the situation in council space, she said. We are aware of your difficulties. Then you know how desperate things are. I do. Hana pulled out several documents from the folder. which makes this conversation necessary. She slid the first document across the table. Vex picked it up. It was a list, a very long list. This is a catalog of all technologies, processes, and systems developed by humans during our time in the Council. As you can see, it is comprehensive. Vex scanned the list. Medical procedures, agricultural techniques, engineering specifications, software algorithms. It went on for pages and pages. Hana slid another document across. This is a detailed accounting of human contributions to Council infrastructure, labor hours, resources, knowledge transfer, all quantified. Vex looked at the numbers. They were staggering. Millions of work hours, billions in resource value, knowledge that was literally priceless. We did not keep these records out of greed, Hana said. We kept them because we are thorough, because we believe in documenting our work. She slid a third document across the table. This one was thicker. This is our licensing agreement. Vex opened it. The first page listed prices. Each technology, each system, each piece of knowledge. All of it had a cost. The total number at the bottom made his breath catch. It was more than the Council's entire economic output for a decade. This is impossible, Krell said. We cannot pay this. Then you cannot use our technology, Hana said, simply. Vesix leaned forward. You would let people die? Our medical crisis is not our responsibility, Hana finished. We left the Council legally. We fulfilled our obligations. What happens in Council space now is not our concern. But you could help, Dross said. You have the knowledge. We do, and it is ours to do with as we wish. Hana's voice remained calm. Just as the Council decided that human contributions were theirs to do with as they wished. Remember? Galactic common good? Vex closed his eyes. The words came back to him. Every vote where the Council had claimed human technology for everyone. Every time they had dismissed human protests. Every session where human voices had been muted. That was wrong, he said quietly. We were wrong. Hana looked at him for a long moment. Yes, you were. So this is revenge. No, Hana shook her head. This is business. You taught us that everything has a value, that contributions should be shared freely if they benefit everyone. Well, we disagree. We believe that work should be compensated, that knowledge should be respected, that people should be valued. She pulled out another document. However, we understand that you cannot pay our licensing fees, so we have an alternative proposal. Vex took the document eagerly. He read through it quickly. His hope faded as he read. Individual species can negotiate directly with human worlds, he read aloud, bypassing the Council structure, creating bilateral agreements based on mutual benefit and respect. Exactly, Hana said. If the Tharsos want our medical technology, they can talk to us directly. If the Dendari want our engineering expertise, they can negotiate their own terms. The Council itself is no longer our concern. That would destroy the Council, Vesik said. The Council is already destroyed, Hana replied. You did that yourselves. We are simply offering a path forward for individual species who want to recover. Vex set down the document. He understood what was happening. Humans were not saving the Council. They were replacing it, creating new partnerships, new alliances, building a different kind of galactic community, one where humanity was at the center. Some species will accept, he said. Many already have, Junho said. 17 independent species have signed trade agreements with us in the last year. 17 species. Vex had not even known there were 17 independent species in the region. But humans had found them, partnered with them, given them the things the Council had never offered. Respect, fair dealing, real cooperation. What about the species who stay with the Council? Krell asked. Hana shrugged slightly. That is their choice. We wish them well, but we will not provide support to the Council as an institution. You made it clear that you did not value our participation, so we are no longer participating. Vex stood up slowly. The other Council members looked at him in surprise. Prime Minister Hana, he said, You have every right to refuse us. We treated you poorly. We took you for granted. We dismissed your contributions and ignored your concerns. He paused. I personally am responsible for much of that. I believed humans needed the council more than the council needed humans. I was completely wrong. Hana's expression softened slightly. Thank you for saying that. It does not change anything, does it? No. Words are easy. Respect has to be earned. Vex nodded. He gestured to the others. They stood and moved toward the door. Speaker Vex, Hana said. He turned back. For what it is worth, I do not hate you. None of us do. We simply learned a valuable lesson. Never work for people who do not value your work. Never give your gifts to people who treat them as obligations. Will humans ever rejoin the council? Hana smiled slightly. Would you join an organization that muted your voice for 12 years? That took your contributions without thanks? That treated you as invisible until you left? No, Vex admitted. Then you have your answer. Nari appeared to escort them back to their ship. As they walked through the station, Vex looked around again. Everywhere he looked, he saw activity, progress, growth. He saw what humanity had built in 18 months. Not just stations and gates, but partnerships, alliances, a new model for how species could work together, a model built on respect. They reached their ship. Vex turned to Nari. What will you do now? Humanity, I mean. Nari thought for a moment. We will keep building, keep growing, keep creating partnerships with species who want genuine cooperation. There is a whole galaxy out there beyond the Council. We are just getting started. Vex boarded his ship. As they pulled away from the station, he took one last look at human space. Ships moved in every direction. The new jump gates gleamed in the starlight. It all looked vibrant and alive. Behind them, Council space was dark and failing. The journey back took 5 days. When Vex arrived at the Council chamber, an emergency session was already in progress. Species were arguing about what to do. Some wanted to accept human bilateral agreements. Others wanted to try to force humans to help. Still others wanted to try building their own alternatives. The chamber was chaos. Voices shouted over each other. The translator system garbled half the messages. Nothing was being accomplished. Vex walked to his seat and sat down quietly. He did not call for order. He just watched the chaos unfold. An aide approached him. Sir, what should we do? Vex thought about Hana's calm face, about the bustling human station, about the price list for knowledge that had once been given freely. Nothing, he said. There is nothing we can do. We made our choices. Now we live with the consequences. 20 years passed. The Galactic Council still existed, but it was a shadow of its former power. More than half its members had left to join the human Commonwealth. Those who remained struggled with outdated systems and failing infrastructure. In human space, Minho sat in his retirement home on Earth. He was teaching a class to young diplomats. The room was full of eager students, all wanting to learn about galactic politics. The Council taught us an important lesson, Minho told them. Generosity without respect breeds entitlement. Contribution without recognition breeds resentment. He paused. We did not punish them, we simply stopped enabling them. A young student named Jian raised her hand. But sir, thousands of people suffered in Council space. Did we not have an obligation to help them? Did they have an obligation to respect us? Minho asked gently. Did they have an obligation to value our contributions, to listen when we spoke? Jian thought about that. I suppose not. Then neither did we have an obligation to continue giving when our gifts were taken for granted. Minho smiled. But here is the important part. Many species did respect us. Many did value our work. Those species, we helped gladly. We still help them today. The Commonwealth is built on mutual respect. Everyone contributes. Everyone benefits. Everyone has a voice. What happened to Speaker Vex? Another student asked. He resigned from the council 10 years ago. Last I heard, he was teaching political science on the Tharsos homeworld. Does he teach about humanity? I believe so. about the cost of taking people for granted, about the importance of valuing contributions. Minho looked out the window at the Earth sky. It is a good lesson. Everyone should learn it. The class ended. The students filed out. Minho sat alone for a moment, thinking about that last day in the council chamber. When he had sent the withdrawal notice, when everything had changed, he did not regret it. Not for a moment. Humanity had found their true value by walking away, and they had built something better than what they left behind. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply say no. And walk away with dignity. The council learned that lesson too late. But they did learn it, and that, Minho thought, was worth something.